Okay, so I have a couple of minutes to work here, so I'm going to go ahead and take my opportunity to share a question that I get asked a lot, and that is, why bother integrating brain training with reading? Okay, so reading we thought was a very static skill. It was just left brain. It is primarily left brain. I will give it that. But now that we know more about the brain, now we know about brain plasticity, now that we know that we can build neural networks, then we have to adapt our strategies to the new understanding, to the new knowledge. And brain plasticity isn't that new. I mean, that knowledge is technically at least a decade old now. So why haven't we changed the way we do things? Why haven't we started integrating right brain teaching as well as the standard left brain? Why aren't we working these two together to really get these concepts through? Because we all are whole brain people. There's nobody that's just a left brain person or just a right brain person. And so these kids that are struggling with reading, they're being taught in a way that's not natural to them. Okay, it's not natural for them to learn like that. The way they learn is by touching, by handling, by playing with things. They learn by playing with things. That's why kids play, right? That's why when they're little they play their parents and things like that. So why aren't we teaching kids how to read with play, basically, which is right brain stuff? So we integrate right brain activities into our reading practices, and then we see crazy results. So when we first started integrating temporal processing techniques, which we were using in our therapy office for trauma patients, for people with brain damage, for people with strokes, for people that were born with partial brain loss, we started using those same techniques with these kids that just had dyslexia or just had executive functioning issues, or maybe they were just poor readers for another reason, We saw huge leaps, huge leaps of progress, and we couldn't understand why. We had to go back and look at it. And what we found out was that when we're teaching the brain, which is what you're doing with these kids, right? You're teaching them how to use different parts of their brain. You're using more of the brain when you're using these temporal processing techniques. So you're teaching them to read, not by just using that little one region on that left side, but you're teaching them to read with the visual, with the stuff on the right side too. So you're teaching them to read with so many different parts of the brain, and also to retain that information in those other parts of the brain as well. So this is a skill. It's not something that they learn and forget. It's not something that you have to go back and do again and again and again. This is actually something that those changes are permanent in the brain, because once the neurons wire together, they fire together. So that was the key. That was the big key that we learned, to fire those neurons together and use those techniques in reading. And that is really my whole company. That is what I do. Thank you.